Introduction.
Our ticket classification, or our AI, which uses machine learning to build its model, and automation can help you proactively resolve those incidents. Proactively means, as a service desk technician, how can I do that quickly? But it can also be a means of identifying issues before the user even knows they've got an issue and escalating that to the service desk and looking at it from an employee experience or using their desktop and how do I get a better experience for my users in running the system. So we're going to go and jump into our demo and look through that and drive that.
AI ticket classification.
And let's say someone's called up and we've got an incident of some sort, so it might be our demo data, Alan Taylor. Most people would know him from our organisation if you've heard that before. And let's say our slow. That might be typically what you type in at that point. What happens automatically is that using our ticket classification, we automatically determine that this looks like it's a desktop service issue, and we also look at this as a performance issue. So straight away, we've classified this particular incident to say, these are the problems we believe it's, or categories this is. And what you'll also notice is we've also classified this to the correct team. So straight away we've said it needs to go to the desktop support team. And that machine learning will look at what are we looking at in there. So it's looking at the core information. So effectively think of machine learning as I'm going to look at your summary and information and descriptions and go, what do you typically resolve this as? So when you have resolved these issues for a PC is slow, for example, and the good thing is you don't necessarily have to spell it correctly or do that analysis. What do I typically categorize that as? And typically you'd categorize it as service and category. And as it learns and gets more information, that accuracy is going to be much higher from that point. And it also learns that we know what team we need to link that to. One of the other things you'll see on this right-hand side is this neurons for healing options will start to appear on the right-hand side to say, here's some options, because we've a little bit vague on our description there, but if we start to get a little bit more accurate on that, we actually start to get a closer neurons for healing automation recommendation. We'll look at that in a little while. Now, just because we've highlighted that, we've gone through that, if we change that, what you'll see is we automatically adjust our service and category. So straight away, because we've changed our summary of the information that we have, we've gone through and changed the service and category, and you'll also see that we've changed the team as well. So the ticket classification is always looking at what you've got there, and we're always refreshing. So if you do go and change something in there, maybe you misunderstood the person as you're typing it in, maybe the description or the summary was wrong, we'll adjust the service and category automatically based on our machine learning and AI capabilities. And we also look at the team and go, we're going to have to adjust that as well because this service and category has automatically changed in its own right.
Building your AI model.
What we do there is we take your data. So effectively, if you've got an existing service desk environment and you've got lots of resolutions around service and category, what teams work on it, the summaries, you export that information into a CSV file and you load it into our machine learning and we run data through that. Now, in some cases, there might be things that you don't want in machine learning. So if there's a whole lot of categories of other in there, you might go, look, we've got to clean that up and either get the categorization correct or not. So I'm within Ivanti neurons. And within the Ivanti neurons is a machine learning lab. And what we do is we just load a model into that machine learning lab. I'll just look at an existing one. We basically load that CSV file in and we ask it to go through a training process. And that training process is going to look at what's my data look like? Can I accurately categorize information? So if we've got 10 records, we're probably not going to do that well out of the categorization at that point. But if we've got hundreds of records and you've got a nice mature system, it gives us the ability to then get a better accuracy of what information we have. And we come back with results. So before we want to deploy it, we want to make sure that we understand, what is our accuracy? And that training system will start to go through that process. So it gives us a view of what's that look like. And we want to have something that's 80% of the training data is available. We don't want to have 40% of the information is accurate, because that's not really good results for us. If we get 80% or more, we've got a good way of looking at that. If we look at the accuracy on the other side of percentage of correct predictions made during it, this is just how often have we got that right. So we can tell the machine within the service test when we get a categorization, we say this wasn't correct, we want to adjust that slightly. So we can actually look at that information, keep track of that. And then how often do we use that? And we can look at different information there to sort of say, if I've got different training models, I can look at how well we've gone with that information. So we might not have been that good on what the data was that we put into the system. What we want to do is get that accuracy of information. And once we've got a good model, we then deploy that model. So then we use that, and you can refresh it over a period of time, but it will continue to learn and keep track of the information you have.
Post-ticket automation.
Now, what about the automation side? So we've looked at the ticket classification, and we've looked at how easy ticket classification is. Now let's look at the other side of that, which is doing the automation, and what does that mean? So I'm going to create an incident again. Use my friend Al. Actually, I'll use myself because I've got a machine attached to it. And again, we're going to say the PC is slow. Now, in this particular demo environment, I don't have everything quite set up there. Classification. I'm going to link my CI. And we can see we come back with performance issues or other related data that we might be working against. So we can run particular details, looking at different data. We'll put that as performance issues again. And we could just put performance zone. We have different recommendations in there. So these recommendations, as we talked about, typically when you're an incident, you'd go and look at your related items and say, okay, what's the knowledge article that I need to work on? In here, we can look at, maybe I want to run one of these now and actually go and execute that. And I can say, right, I've got all the information. I think that's the correct thing based on what's been talked about. So I'm going to save and execute. So we're saving the incident, and we're executing the browser or the actual new healing bot behind the scene. Now you can run these independently. So if at a later point you want to run any of these neurons healing bots, you can run those. And a healing bot is going to process against that particular device at this time. So let's have a look at what the device is going to see, because when we execute that, there's different ways you do it. You could just run it in the background and have no one know that it's run, but you might want to have the user have some interaction with that particular healing bot that is running at that time. So let's have a look at what the user might be going to see on their desktop.
Employee experience.
So we're on the desktop, and we should start to see in a minute we're going to get some interaction there. So they might be working away on their desktop, running. And what they do is maybe have a Microsoft Teams message will pop up. And we get a Microsoft Teams question pop up here. And what we want to do is that IT support technician, just because they've called it in, we don't want to run it without telling them. So they might be using their web browser, for example. So we can have, performance issues been identified. Do we want to fix that? We can say yes or no. If we say no, then we'll just come back. We'll just say, like, okay, that's fine. We can come back and run this at another time. In this particular case, we're going to say, yes, we do want to resolve that. And this healing bot is going to be interactive. And I'll show you a healing bot as to what that looks like and what we can do with that healing bot. Then we have another question, because people have multiple browsers, and they might use Firefox as their favorite, and that's the one they're talking about, or Chrome or Edge. In this case, we're going to say we want to clear Chrome, and then it's going to run through and clear the browser cache for Chrome. Now, we could have had another option there, which is say, I want to clean all my browser options out of there. You can choose the information you want. So we're trying to be interactive within this and how we get that information to the user. And that will be running as we go through that. What we'll do is have a look at what that looks like from, what does a Neurons healing bot look like?
Healing bots administration.
Within their system. So we're going to come into Ivanti Neurons. We're going to look at our workspace Neurons bots, and here's my clear browser data. And this is what we've been executing. And we're still just going through, we can look at that, we're still just going through the process of clearing my browser data. But let's have a look at that in a bit more detail. So the first thing is we just touch the desktop and say, okay, just give me some information around the desktop to make sure we can do this. We have our interaction, which is the Microsoft Teams one. So we've got our yes, no answer, and I'll go in and edit this in a minute. We then say, okay, yes, we are wanting to do that. We have our other question, which is what's my browser? We want to set it as Chrome, and now we go through and we're going to want to clear the browser data to go through the process. And as we end up, we'll actually end up closing out this particular request. Now let's say the good thing about this is you can configure this and look at the data as you want it. So you can configure any part of this. So my Microsoft Teams interaction, I define what the message is, what the questions are, what are the buttons that I want to have interacting there. How do I filter that result? So we're just looking at the user response from Teams. I have my next question, which is, okay, I want to do some more confirmation. I come down here, the clean browser data is just based off that result, but you can have different options there to say, do I want to do everything? And then we have another interaction there. On the left-hand side, you have these queries that you can drag across onto here and say, this is something else I want to look at. Now, it might be you can have, maybe there's something else here and you've got event logs that are saying there's something wrong with your system. I can drag the event logs across there. Maybe I want that to be the next question in there rather than that first one. So the first one will check the system. Next one will actually go and check the event log. We run through. We start to look at what are we looking at? What's the event log that we're looking at? So that's queries. So all of these queries can be brought across and you can drag them into the system. Then we have actions that we want to run. We've got the clear browser data action, or we can have other actions in there. So if we go through this and let's say it's an automated process that runs in the background and we want to create a service management ticket, we can say that at the end of that, if it hasn't worked, we need to go and create a ticket, and I can start to get the information that's relevant to my environment and drag that into there. So it's drag and drop. You build the workflow that's going to work for you from an automation side, and you can run this within your system. We are up for time, so I just want to finish off. When they clear the browser data, it can, first time through, takes a little while to clear the browser data. It will come through and end that system.